Hey, everybody. Just a few weeks ago, I shared my number one mentor that had a big impact on my career in photography. Now we're going to take a look at my second most favorite one that I've been involved with for the last 4 years. And the whole purpose of this exercise is not for you to like my mentors, but to encourage you to find your own mentors. Are we ready for this? Let's get ready to kick some assets. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to the channel, this is dedicated to photography and as a photo artist. Now let's jump into our program, and that is lately, I have no idea why, but a lot of the private emails I've been getting. And by the way, if you do have any issues or questions and you want to submit that to my private email address, it's right here at the bottom of the screen. It's stephenphotoartist@gmail.com. You'll find that in the show notes also. Okay, so the questions I get are, who are the important people in your career that were your mentors? And some had mentioned, or actually 2 or 3 had mentioned, if you could only pick one mentor that had the biggest impact on your career, which one would it be? And I mentioned it was Joel Grimes. If you have missed that video I did a few weeks ago, I'll put the link in the show notes so you could see that one. But now I'm going to share with you the second most popular one that's really for the last 4 years with me that has changed the direction of my photography, and that is Peter Coulson. And this is his website right now. Probably will change by the time you see that because he tends to update that or change the images. Just a little heads up on that. On Peter, he works with a lot of models. He's well known for his fashion and portrait photography for years from Melbourne, Australia. And I have had the privilege of actually working with him in Chicago, I believe it was a couple years ago. So let me just share that this is obviously me, but there's Peter on the right and his personal assistant, Beck, on the left. And we just had a blast working with some models. And he really taught me a lot of different things in working with models. Now, why working with models is important to me, and that is I got recruited about 4 years ago to a local school here in Michigan where I was a faculty member part-time teaching Photoshop and a little bit of photography and stuff. And I was exposed to the school working with models, and I really never worked with models before, just at trade shows, conventions where they had a little booth set up. And so I was testing out equipment or trying lenses, and you're photographing models that are, set up with the different, backgrounds, that kind of thing. That was my extent of really working with models. So when I got recruited and I started attending workshops and assisting where they were working with models, I just felt really awkward and stuff. And I discovered Peter Coulson a few years ago, and I started watching his YouTube channels. And I need to get some disclaimers out of the way before I get into his work and that. Number one, I'm not here to promote him for you to like him at all. In fact, I had to write down a whole list of things I want to talk about. What I'm trying to encourage you to do is to find your own mentor. The purpose of a mentor basically is to help you to get from point A to B in your career faster, making fewer mistakes because they've already paved the road and they've got a lot of experience. He's got well over 30 some years of working with models in fashion and portrait photography. So he's really helped me out a lot. But again, you might be like a landscape or fine art lifestyle photographer or a boudoir photographer or something else, whatever the category is. Maybe, again, photographing children like I do. You need to find somebody that you could really relate to. And, if they offer like training videos, you should invest in that, in my opinion. That's just my personal opinion on that. I know sometimes, money is tight, but a lot of times we can't get to a live event. But I always work hard to also get to a live event because it's like icing on the cake. So just to show you that in Chicago, in working with him, and by the way, his mentors, which I really admire one of them the most, and that is Peter Lindbergh. If you don't know who Peter Lindbergh is, I'll put a link to his website. But he's a very well-known photographer who passed away a few years ago. Love his black and white work. And the other one that Peter was influenced by is Helmut Newton. I don't know if anybody's heard of him. I'll put a link to his information. They used to have a lot of really good documentaries on YouTube, but they pulled that because his, I don't know, some organization that oversees his images and stuff like that pulled all the videos and documentaries off of YouTube and turned around to sell it, on a DVD. But it wasn't that expensive, and I was looking at that work and getting inspired by it. But just a heads up, if you go to his website, there is some nudity in there. I just want you to be aware of that. Most of it is not, but there is a lot. So if that offends you, maybe you don't want to go there. But let me talk about why I like him and what he's done for me. But again, this is like a roadmap for you to find your own mentor based on the category that you like to shoot, and take the time to study that person, watch videos, go to live workshops if they offer that, because again, that is icing on the cake. All right, so let's get into why I like Peter Coulson. All right, so first of all, we're going to start out as to why I like Peter Coulson and why I really related to him based on my interest changing, where I was actually was starting to work with models. And I just got caught up in a certain way that most people work with models. And he came in with a different approach. And I was just fascinated with the way he worked and how he worked with models. So let's talk about, first of all, why I liked him. Well, number one, because I have to write this down so I don't forget anything. 95% of his work, if not more, is all black and white. I just love his look. He likes that analog look. He is not a fan of a strong digital look. And that's what I felt is the same way. I thought it was just me, because you know me, if you've watched any of my previous videos in the past, is that I'm not a big fan of super tack sharp images. I like it to be a little bit on the softer side, and that's why I like that analog look, because that's what we typically get when we shoot, with film. And so I just love the fact that he liked that style in black and white, has that analog look. He does very simple, simplistic editing. In fact, very little editing at all. He gets most of his stuff done right in camera based on his style and that. He's always on a tripod, I would say about 80-90% of the time. Once in a while, he'll do a freestyle, but typically he's on a tripod working. And his mentors, which I mentioned, again, I'll just put a photo up here. One is Peter Limberg, and then the other one that I had mentioned earlier on the intro, and that was Helmut Newton, which is right here. So you could look up those two to see their type of work. Anyhow, he is heavily influenced on that. That's why I like him. Now, let's talk about what he taught me and the importance of, again, a mentor, like accelerating your education so you can go from point A to B with fewer mistakes. Because we're always going to make mistakes. But if somebody's already paved the road and they've made the mistakes, they're going to help you minimize those mistakes during your journey, rather than you flopping around back and forth, taking longer to get there. So that's the importance of a mentor. And again, I'm not here to promote him. I'm just, you people have asked who's your second most favorite mentor. My first one was Joel Grimes, and this was number 2. So let's take a look at some of his work first. So this was when I was in Chicago, working with him. And again, you'll see that in this example, he's using his Hasselblad and tethered, because we're always analyzing the image as he's shooting. He's directing the model, always, and Beck is in the background as his assistant, checking everything and making sure everything's fine as he's photographing and explaining his routine. But not only his routine, but really coaching the model on how to work with him, because one of the things that he does that's different than everybody else, and not to be on the negative side of this, but he hates what he calls the Macarena type models. And what I mean by that is every time a photographer shoots, they hear the click or the strobes go off, the model immediately changes a pose. Click, change a pose. Click, change a pose over here. So they're always thinking in advance. Once that strobe goes up, oh, what do I do next? So he calls it the Macarena. Hey, Macarena. If you remember that song from years ago. But it just draws away from the facial expression because they're thinking about their next move. So he teaches and coaches them to just do drifting like if he was doing a video. And I'm going to show a video a little bit later, about 1 minute long, of Beck. And he just fires away as they're sort of drifting and moving slowly. And he tells them, if I'm not getting what I want, the strobe's not going to go off. The picture's not, I'm not taking the picture. So he's always talking to him, trying to get the emotion. I learned a lot that the body, position of the body affects the facial muscles and your expression. So he's all about the expression and working with models. So again, this was a model that never worked with him before, and again, in Chicago area. And this is, we're just sort of take a look at things on the monitor. And this is Beck. She actually will come in once in a while and model, and she just totally looks different than when she's casual. I mean, she just has that look and knows how to work with Peter, because she's been with Peter for years and years and years. So this is just some of the images. These are some of the models he has worked with in Australia, the Melbourne area. He travels all through Europe. So this is, again, some of his work right here. Okay, so let's take a look and talk about not only the getting the emotion out of the models and stuff, and that is, he also has a unique attitude that some photographers have, and I thought I was the only one, and that is camera club mentality. And the first time I heard that, I fell off my chair, and it was on his YouTube channel from a live stream years ago. And basically what he's talking about is getting caught up in rules and regulation, putting you in a box if you belong to a camera club. And if you're in business, avoid photographic like contests and stuff like that, because it will suck the life out of you, take you down a rabbit hole, and no one's going to hire you to do work based on you winning awards. If they don't like your work, they don't care how many awards you've won, they're not going to hire you. And that sort of hit home with me, and I fell down that rabbit hole where, why am I wasting my time trying to think, what are these judges going to look for when I submit these images? And then I'm thinking, it's taking away from my business. That's number one. Number two, they're not going to buy, no one's going to buy my images. So why am I getting so obsessed with this? And then it dawned on me, and he was right. It doesn't matter if I win an award or not. They don't like my work, they're not going to hire me. And I've been recognized 4 different times at different venues and stuff. My work, and Canon was one of them, down in Arizona area. And, which is nice. It's a little, pat on the back with other photographers and stuff. But it had zero, meaning in getting clients. Because again, either they like your work or you don't. So he comes right out and, says, hey, camera mentality. A lot of times people ask questions, and it's a camera club mentality, I should say. So one of the things I'm a little bit touchy about maybe is the phrase camera club mentality. It comes across on the negative side. There is nothing, in my opinion, wrong with being involved in a camera club if that's what you want to do. Most people that are involved in that are hobbyists. This is fun. Would I be doing that if I was just doing this as a hobby? Probably I would be, in a camera club, because, again, it's just a different avenue. But I still do business. I still do client work, and that will just suck the life and time out of me. And it has no bearing on my business. So, I'm just not involved in camera club stuff, that type of thing. Also, we had mentioned this from the past. I did a whole video on somebody on a live stream again was asking, hey, do you use an external light meter? And his response is, well, no. He goes, why would I? I use the one that's built into the camera. The camera is my light meter. He says, using a meter slows me down because I'm doing things creatively with lights. And when he said that, again, I almost fell off my chair, because I'm thinking, is it just me or what? Because I went out and got a light meter because I was told I had to have one back in 2005 or 2006. And there it is sitting in a drawer for decades, because I just don't even use the darn thing, because I found that I'm doing creative things, moving lights around. And I had to do a workshop one time at a studio called Through the Eyes of the Photographer. And I had to photograph a model there that was like in a workout outfit, like exercise type of thing. And I had to do a basic composite. But the first thing I had to do was shoot her in the studio, and I was using 3 lights, 2 back edge lights, and then a front light was my key light. And the first thing I did was I was tethered so everybody in the studio could see the images up on a large screen. And the first thing I'm doing is I'm just guessing at my light settings for exposure-wise. I'm just guessing at that. And then I'm taking the shot, and I don't care if it's overexposed or slightly underexposed. Exposure was totally irrelevant when I'm more concerned about the location of my light and how it's wrapping around my subject. So I'm just tweaking and moving my lights around. The last thing I'll worry about is the exposure. And there are times I want things underexposed, and other times I want things slightly overexposed. Well, a light meter doesn't know that, and for me, it slows me down. So you know my attitude about light meters. Number one, if you're not sure, borrow one from somebody for a week. Do your type of photography with a light meter. Then don't use a light meter. Do your work without a light meter. Use your camera meter and see what you're comfortable with. Because in my opinion, there's no right or wrong. Well, maybe they're both right, I should say. In other words, you go, well, I just work faster and better with an external light meter. You are correct. If somebody says, no, I prefer using the one in my camera because I work faster and easier for me, you are correct. In other words, everybody's different. So I don't take a hard nose on, oh, you should never use a light meter, external one, whatever, only use your camera. Try both, see what you like, okay? Joel Grimes does not use an external light meter. Film days are over with. He says, I use what's in my camera. It's easier and faster. And plus, he's creative too. He's moving lights around. He's more concerned about the position of the lights. Exposure is the last thing he worries about. And he can work, again, faster without that. So that sort of, hit home with me about things about camera club mentality, which I experienced, and things like, how come everybody's saying that you should have a light meter? And then it just didn't work for me. And then I found out a lot of professionals, they don't use a light meter either. So anyhow, so that's a little bit about, what he has taught me. He also taught me how to work effectively in natural light, continuous light indoors versus outdoors, working with strobes, different kind of modifiers. Great person, great educator. You may like him, you may not, but again, just as a disclaimer here, let me put this up on the screen here. This is some of his creative stuff that he does, but also he has a membership category called Inspire, and let me find that. And whoops, I'm sorry, I forgot. I'm going to show you a 1-minute video of Beck in the studio. Now, he put some music on this, on the video, but basically you could see her drifting. In other words, she's not doing something called the Macarena. And it's all about getting the emotion and stuff out of the model. And so let me play that video for you, and then we'll get back into taking a look at his Inspire membership program. Okay, so now you'll see in this video, this is what Peter calls drifting. And this is his assistant, Beck, who does modeling part-time. But the whole point of this is that as they're drifting, and he might have music playing in the background or something, but he's clicking, hitting the trigger on his camera when he sees the look that he wants. And it's all about the emotion. It's not about the model worrying about the next pose, that kind of stuff, because it takes that emotion out. Peter Lindbergh was really good at this, as other photographers. They knew it was all about the emotion in the model, not the pose so much. So an example, once in a while I see him ask the model I want you to sit on the floor and angle this way toward the light. And they'll say, well, how do you want me to sit? And basically his response is, well, if you sat down at home watching TV, how would you sit down? I want you to be comfortable. I don't want you to think about where your legs are at, whatever. Sit down the way you normally would sit down in a comfortable position, because again, it's all about the eyes. All right, well, that concludes this little demo of, Beck working with him, but let's get back to our program. Okay, so that's a little short video on how he works with models. You can find free information on his YouTube channel. I'll put the links to his YouTube channel in the show notes for you. And it'll open up your eyes in a different way of working with models, and that's what really got my interest. Now, I'm going to just share with you, and again, disclaimer, I have nothing to do with this. I'm not an affiliate. I am a member of his Inspire group, which is an online tutorials. It's $25 a month, US, $200 per year, and you get a lot more information, more detailed and in-depth information versus his YouTube channel right there. So I just love the work. He's really been, a big help to me in working with models. And hopefully you found this helpful. Again, you may not like him. Again, I'm trying to emphasize to you people, basically, is please, your category photographer, of photography, I should say, like if it's landscape or lifestyle or whatever it is, find somebody that you can really, you get attracted to and you really like their work, and find out if they do offer videos or online stuff, or they do workshops, and try to attend that. It'll just help you get from point A to B. Again, for the people that are fairly new, if you could do me a favor, and that is like the video, subscribe if you have not subscribed, and also hit the notification bell. Next time I upload a video, it will remind you of something new coming out. I try to do something every week for you guys. I've got once a month, I try to do something called Saturday Sit Back and Chill Out, where I deal with some of the issues and questions and maybe some rants a little bit about photography, and I do that once a month. Okay, so with that out of the way, hopefully you got inspired to go out and find your own mentor and really dig deep, because one of the things, we have a choice in life, and that is, you've heard me talk about, we have people that are serious, and then there's people that are curious. I've also heard the phrase that you're either a participator in life, you're participating in life, or you're sitting back watching life go by. I'm not saying either one is, the best, okay? Because I flip-flop between both of them. I'm very active, just, working hard, being active in life and in photography and other things. And then I got to sit back and watch things for a little bit, because I need to chill out a little bit, and have a little balance in my life. So I flip-flop back and forth, but most of the time I'm very active, participating in life. All right, so with that out of the way, let's get that camera out. Let's practice, make mistakes. Literally, let's think creatively out of the box. Until next time, see ya.